Hello and welcome back to Cello from the Beginning. The next few lessons we're going to shift to some technical focus. So we'll be doing some exercises and we're going to learn a new kind of note length. So what we've learned so far, of course, we started with quarter notes, notes that got one beat. We did a lot of work with those length of notes. And then we added half notes, which got two beats. So what we're going to add now is the eighth note. The eighth note gets half of one beat, so it's twice as fast as a quarter note. So if these are our quarters, like that, 1, 2, 3, 4. Eighths will be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Feel it? Quarter, eighth, quarter, eighth. Okay, it's pretty easy to feel. It's just a double time. You get the hang of it pretty quickly. We're going to practice some different patterns of quarters and eighths. But first, let's talk about bowing. So we have to be careful now as we speed these notes up that we adjust our bow use accordingly. Let me show you something that often happens when we add eighth notes for beginners. We're used to playing quarters, using a nice, good amount of bow. Then we go to eighths. See what happened there? I tried to use the same amount of bow on those eighth notes as I was used to using on the quarters, and they got really loud and really jumped out and you know, way beyond what I would want to have happen, especially if I'm trying to play at a one volume. I don't want to have it suddenly be loud. So why did that happen? Because I used the same pressure, but a lot more bow. So what we have to do is we have to adjust. So if we're playing quarters at whatever this tempo is, you know, I'm using about that much of my bow for the quarters. So when I go to those eighth notes, I want to use half that much bow, right? Or in that area. That will help me. So here I am, quarters. Now watch. Same volume, same pressure. So we have to reduce the amount of bow. So my bow is actually moving at the same speed. If you think of it as I'm just changing the bow twice as often. So I'm not bowing faster. I'm not moving side to side faster. I'm moving at whatever the sound is, the speed that's good for the sound at this tempo. So all I'm doing is changing bows more frequently. So let's try some different patterns. The first one I think is a good one is to do 2 quarters and 4 eighth notes. So, and let's get a metronome going here to keep us. That's 72. I think that'll be a good speed for us to practice. So let's try just open D string. So this will be this pattern. Ready? 1, 2, ready, play. Quarters, eighth. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. One more. Okay. So that's a very straightforward pattern. 2 quarters, 4 eighths. So that fills the bar with 4 beats. So let's do a different pattern. So this one we're going to try. Let's move to the A string for some variety. This will be quarter, 2/8, quarter, 2/8. So if I'm counting it, it's 1, 2, and 3, 4, and. It'll sound like this. And I want you to notice something about where my bow is. So I start with a quarter, so it moves me from the lower half of the bow to the upper half. I play 2/8, but they're short, so I'm staying up here. I play another quarter. It's long, so it moves me to the lower half, 2/8. So my bow is going to move back and forth from the lower half to the upper half on these quarter notes. So watch it again. All right, let's put our metronome on. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and. One more time. Okay, very good. That's an important pattern. Use that a lot. Let's try our third pattern. This is going to be the reverse of our first pattern. So we're going to have 4/8 followed by 2 quarters. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4, like this. The temptation on that pattern is to start with a huge bow on the first eighth. We don't want to do that. We just want to start with a normal, good amount of bow for the eighth note. Just like that. Okay, let's put our metronome on and let's do this. Let's add a little complication. Let's do one measure of our pattern on the D, one measure on the A, and go back and forth. Here we go. One, got to count it out. 1 and 2 and D string. 1 and 2 and D, A, D, A, D, A, D, finish, and A. Okay, it's an easy one. Let's try a little more complicated pattern. We're still going to have 2 quarters and 4 eighths, but we're going to separate the quarters at the ends of the measure. So this one will be 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And once again, you'll see that my bow is moved out on the first quarter. It stays out there, 2 and 3, and it comes back on the fourth beat. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 1. Hear it? Okay. Let's try this one. Let's start with the A string, then do the D string. So 1 bar of A, 1 bar of D. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. A, D, A, D, A, D, A, and D. Okay, hopefully you're getting the hang of these. We're going to do a few more patterns here. So let's see. The next one will be, we're gonna reverse this. So we'll have the eighth notes at the outside beats, 1 and 4, and we'll have the quarter notes at 2 and 3. So 1 and 2, 3, 4 and 1 and 2, 3, 4 and 1 and 2, 3, 4 and feel it? Let's just do this one on the D string so that we can concentrate on this odd rhythm. 1 and 2, 3, 4 and 1 and 2, 3, 4 and one more time. 1 and 2, 3, 4 and okay, a few more. So we're going to try a pattern now that's almost all quarters. We'll have quarters on beats 1, 2, and 4, and the eighth notes will be on beat 3. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. It'll sound like this. This one also has a bow distribution where it moves you to the upper half and the lower half, but it takes place over 2 measures rather than 1. So here, now I'm at the upper half, and then I play the up bow. Really, we're mostly doing quarter notes. We're mostly using however that much is. It's just for those couple of eighth notes that it'll move us to a certain place. All right, let's do this to make it more complicated. We're gonna slow down a little bit because I want to add a string crossing. I want to do D, A, D, D, A. Very, very clean string crossings. That's why we're going to go slow. We don't want this. We don't need the extra note in there at the bow change. We want a clear bow changing at the same time as it pivots. Just like that. So let's go slower. This is 60. 1, 2, 3, and 4. D, A, D, and A, D, A, D, and A, D, A, D, and A, D, A, D, and A. A little more. Here it is. Okay, that's a really good exercise to practice because you get the string crossings and you get a little bit of rhythmic difference in there, and sometimes you have to do the string crossing quickly when you're going from the second eighth note to the next beat, and sometimes it's a slower string crossing when you're just doing quarters. So I like that one a lot. All right, let's do this next rhythm. Will be mostly eighth notes. We're going to do eighth notes on beats 1, 2, and 3, and then a quarter note on beat 4. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. This one will also, because it has only a single quarter note, will move us. Sometimes we'll be in the upper half, sometimes we'll be in the lower half. So if I kind of start in the middle, let's do the A string. See how that? I'm starting in the middle. 1 and 2 and 3 and quarter. Now I'm pretty close to the tip. I stay there. There's a quarter. Moves me back roughly to the middle. So this is a good one to practice kind of in the upper half of the bow. And let's try it on the A string. And we'll go slowly on this as well. Here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. more. And stop. Our final pattern is all eighth notes. So every beat, just... What we want to avoid anytime we start to do this kind of a pattern is getting into a scrubbing sound. So you have to be careful not to do this, where we just kind of tune out our sound using too much pressure. To adjust the pressure and the speed so that we're still getting a good, clean, musical sound. Just like that. So let's do that. D string for the first two beats, A string for beats 3 and 4. Here we go. We'll stay at 60, or maybe slightly faster. Let's try this. This is 72. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and D, A, D, A, D, A, D, A. Now, if you have trouble with that, just change on the measure. So do 4 beats of D, 4 beats of A like this. 2, 3, and 4. D, A, D, A, D, A, D, A. Okay, that is the eighth note. That's how we play the eighth note rhythm in a whole variety of combinations. Now, I know you haven't seen them on the page, but here's what we just did. What you're going to have next is 8 exercises. We'll bring the left hand back in. We'll do 4 in the next lesson, and then exercises 5 through 8 in the lesson after that. They will use the rhythms that we just did. So in the order that we did them. So exercise 1, we'll use this rhythm. So on. Exercise 2 uses this rhythm. And throughout. So you've played all the rhythms now that you need for the actual exercises. And you've done them with open strings, so we could really concentrate on the right hand and the counting and the feel before we add the complication of the left hand, because that always makes things harder when we have to do both hands together. So you can review this lesson if you like until you're comfortable with these rhythms, till you're getting a good sound. Your bow distribution is correct and even. You're not getting a scrubbing sound on the eighth note. It's just a nice musical sound. And when you're comfortable with that, when you're feeling good about the rhythm, then go on to the next lesson.